They do kind of tell us, you have to treat things with lead and mercury and cadmium and chromium a certain way. CRTs, you can't just throw them in the trash. You have to dispose of them. 12-volt batteries that are in the UPSs, those things go bad after 2 or 3 years, and they're lead acid. And people should be taking those to the battery recycling place instead of throwing them in the river. I think there's going to have to be something that says, if you do this, you will get something in return.
Yeah, it's the difference between a carrot and a stick, right? I mean,
that's the third can I caught today. How'd those things get in there?
Well, people sometimes wander by and just toss stuff into the water. And there's a lot of other stuff that people put in there that you can't see. That's what pollutes the water,
Why would they do that?
I don't know. I guess people just don't think about it.
price increases coming that have nothing to do with tariffs, dealing with old AV gear, and a major cyber attack impacting universities worldwide. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 768, recorded Friday, May 8, 2026. Recycled AV. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of the biggest news and stories in the AV and the IT world. A criminal hacking group takes down the learning management system used by 40% of American universities right in the middle of finals week. Tariff charges are going away, but don't get too comfortable because price increases are moving in to replace them. And Lightwear opens a new front door in London. Let's get into it. First up, this is not a routine outage. This is not a drill. It's a cyber attack. The criminal extortion group Shiny Hunters breached Instructure, company behind Canvas, and the fallout is being felt at thousands of schools worldwide. Canvas is the most widely used learning management system, or LMS, in North America higher education. Roughly 41% of higher ed institutions run on it. More than 8,000 partner institutions. More than 30 million active users globally. The hacker's message to Instructure was quite blunt. You pay us or we leak everybody's information. The Shiny Hunters claimed its attack compromised the personal data of 277 million people. Students, teachers, staff. Just for reference here, there's 330 million people in the U.S. So you've got names, email addresses, student ID numbers, private messages between instructors and students. Now, the timing could not be worse. The outage hit during final exam periods at many institutions. The University of Illinois postponed final exams and assignments. Rutgers, Penn State, UMass Amherst, Northwestern, the University of Chicago are all down. Institutions in the United Kingdom, New Zealand, Australia, Sweden, the Netherlands also reported disruptions. Now, this isn't Spy Hunter's first run at higher ed. They've been linked to breaches at Harvard, Princeton, and the University of Pennsylvania. Earlier this year, they hit Infinite Campus, a widely used K-12 student information system. In April, they went after publisher McGraw-Hill. A cybersecurity expert described the strategy plainly. Instead of targeting individual campuses, these attackers moved up the supply chain to the platforms that sit underneath thousands of institutions at once. Quite frankly, it's the math of a bank robber who figured out where the armored truck stops. Next up, Tariff Saga just entered a new chapter, and it's one that matters for every company with a project coming down the pipeline. Commercial Integrator broke the news this week. Crestron is dropping its current 4% tariff surcharge on May 29th. That's the good news. Bad news. The exact same day, Crestron is rolling out a global price increase. The numbers depend on the product category. For most products, the increase is 5%. So North American dealers currently paying the 4% surcharge will see a net 1% change. Not too shabby. However, for AV over IP products, that increase jumps to 10%. And for high memory products, control processors, touchscreens, collab compute, the jump is 15%. And this is the industry signaling something bigger. Temporary fees are giving way to permanent higher base pricing. Crestron isn't alone here. CI's source confirms that Logitech, Cisco, and HP Poly are also rolling out or about to roll out increases. What's mainly driving this is memory cost, electronic components, fuel, and transportation. Ongoing geopolitical instability that shows no sign of settling down, at least not as of this recording. Here's a Pro AV win, though. Netgear just reported first quarter 2026 earnings, and for the first time in the company's history, its enterprise segment is now in the majority of their revenue. Enterprise came in at 53% of total sales. The driver, Pro AV managed switches. Double-digit year-over-year demand growth in both the Americas and EMEA. That segment is also the company's highest margin business, a record 52.7% gross margin in the quarter. CEO PJ Prober made the strategy plain on the earnings call. While competitors are chasing AI and data center dollars, Netgear is instead staying focused on Pro AV. He said their dedication to the Pro AV market is what sets them apart, and they intend to keep it that way. That is a company that has made a strategic bet on our industry, and the numbers are validating that bet. Zoom just announced a new integration with Anthropic's Claude, and this one has real practical implications for how knowledge workers move from meeting to action. The integration is built on MCP, the Model Context Protocol, an emerging standard that lets AI assistants access external tools and data securely. That securely part is really what matters here. Here's what it means in plain English. Zoom meetings summarizes, transcripts, and recordings and scheduling data can now flow directly into Claude workflows. A user can ask Claude to find a decision made in a meeting from 2 weeks ago, generate action items from last Friday's project call, build a follow-up document, all without leaving the AI environment. For developers, there's also a Claude code plugin that lets technical teams automate meeting scheduling, pull meeting context into development workflows, and build custom bots driven by meeting intelligence. Zoom CTO put it quite plainly, AI becomes far more useful when it can access real-world context and act on it. The Zoom MCP connector is available now in Claude settings. And finally, Lightwear is planting a flag in London. It's kind of ironic and a flip on what the British used to do. The signal management manufacturer has opened a new showroom and office in the UK capital, celebrating with a dedicated lunch event for partners and industry professionals. Craig Story, CEO of Lightwear UK, says the space is designed to demonstrate their technology across real-world applications. Meeting rooms, control rooms, universities, live production environments, hands-on, all sorts of demos. No PowerPoints, just the gear doing what it does. Siegfried Harman, president of Lightwear EMEA, notes that the open plan design lets them host groups of all sizes and adapt the space quickly for different use cases. It's a smart move. Physical presence in a market like London isn't just about sales, it's about training, support, keeping partners close in a competitive region. And with Infocom on the horizon, expect Lightwear to be building momentum from this new home base heading into show season. That's your AV news for the week. Stick around. Next up, our roundtable looks at what to do with old AV gear and AV technology for disabilities. All that and more next on AV Week.
Hey, listeners, it's your AV sneakerhead, Jennifer Weaver. Listen to AV Career Masterminds, where I chat all things job-related in the audio-visual industry. You can find AV Career Masterminds where you subscribe to podcasts.
All right, welcome back. Now we bring in our fantastic roundtable with us to discuss a couple more articles. First and foremost, I almost said an old friend. I've known Kelly a long time. She's not old, but she's here and she's awesome. How are you, ma'am?
I am wonderful. It's Friday. The weather is beautiful, and I get to hang out with you too.
Absolutely. Kelly Perkins, I should say the last name. Also with us is Chuck Espinoza. Welcome, sir.
Howdy, Tim. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. I actually referenced Chuck in an interview not too long ago talking about education, and I referenced the story you told me a number of years ago about how you would go on social media and stalk people to see how they learn, and then adjust your teaching style based on who was in your classroom, whether they were a tactile learner, whether they were an oral learner, and I still think that is the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah, you think cool. A lot of people said creepy, but to each their own.
Well, creepy, cool.
And so I don't consider it stalking. I actually consider it research. There is a fine line between stalking and research.
Yes, at least according to the judge I went and saw not too long ago. All right, let's move on from here. These are two stories in one. I combine them and just hang on for a second. All right. So AV Magazine. The first story is the immersive Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds experience in London was forced to close after the operator, Ellipsis Entertainment, shut down. Okay, sad for the company, sad for the employees. That's not why we're doing this story, though. The thing that makes this interesting, the production had just completed a £400,000 upgrade. It's roughly $1 million, not quite $1 million in US, but it's a lot of money regardless. The exchange isn't that bad yet. They rebuilt a major VR sequence from scratch using Unreal Engine and next generation headsets, a bunch of stuff. That investment, nearly new, high-end AV and VR equipment, now sits in a closed venue with an uncertain fate. Here's where the crux of this story goes. This is an actual, honest-to-God, recent illustration of a problem the AV industry has been facing for a very long time. The other story comes to us from our friends over at Rave, talking about e-waste and AV waste. The AV sector contributes between 1.5 and 2 million metric tons of e-waste a year. Now, the broader electronic waste stream grows by about 2.6 million tons annually, but organizations like SAVE, that Kelly has a lot to do with, it stands for Sustainability in AV, they're working to keep equipment in use through programs like Save a Second Life. Kelly, they might want to contact the people over in the UK. With voices in the industry growing louder about this, including higher education, including the ability for us to take equipment that is maybe 5-6 years old, depending on your refresh cycle it down into, secondary education, elementary school. I don't know. It's a practical question here, but that's where we're going to start. Is what are we supposed to do, right? And Kelly, I am going to start with you. What are we supposed to do with this equipment that is gently used, or maybe not gently used, but still functional, right? I'm not talking about a 300, line of resolution projector from the 1980s. We're talking about switchers. We're talking about switches, camera gear even. What should the process be internally for IT and AV managers when they start taking gear out and they start setting aside, like what should their process be? I guess is the first question here is what should that initial thought process be? Hey, we have new gear going out. How do we handle the old gear?
I think, and I think it's been an ongoing question, right? I mean, our entire industry has been really successful based, on obsolete technology and replacement, right? So you have all of this technology getting ripped out of buildings. We were just working on a product where somebody's completely ripping out like 15,000 cameras. And it's like, well, what do you do with those 15,000 cameras, which is like ridiculous, right? So, and it's, I was involved with SAVE from the beginning. I haven't been in the last 2 years-ish, so I can't speak to everything that they're currently working on. But, there's Save a Second Life, which is the idea is really to take equipment or gently used equipment, and give said gear a second life. I think the challenge is that there isn't an actual process for it. And I don't know if there's a platform yet to actually sell the gear or give the gear away. Because once you give the gear to, like you said, like a secondary school or any type of education, there's the maintenance and the support and how you actually keep the gear up and running, right? So I don't, I can't speak entirely to how that program is currently working. But, the e-waste problem is, it's the stuff I learned when I was involved in involved with Stave regarding e-waste is like so depressing. Just like pictures of old gear and electronics, you know, basically getting shipped to third world countries and then just getting dumped. And then there's folks over there who are digging through it, trying to get like the minerals from it and burning the equipment to extract the minerals. And then they're ingesting all of the toxins. So it's been an ongoing challenge. I don't really know what the answer is. I know that there are e-waste recycling facilities, at least throughout the US. I don't know if there are. I'm assuming there probably are in London. In the US, there are no regulations or laws as to how e-waste recyclers have to actually operate. So you could be dropping off your equipment to get recycled and they just throw it into the trash. But I know there are a couple actual like certified e-waste recyclers that you can find on the SAVE website, which is saveav.org if you're interested in learning more about that. But man, I don't understand how you could possibly spend 400,000 pounds on a technology upgrade and then close it down soon thereafter. Like that's insanity to me.
Chuck, I want to take a different tact on this because one of the things in Chuck's past life is he was a designer, he was an engineer. How do you design? How do you go into a system and design a system for replacement, right? With that in mind.
So there's a lot of things you can do. And being somebody I'm actually very, very environmentally conscious when I do my designs and when I do my my thoughts about how we're going to do things. And now working for a manufacturer, I can take this one step further back to the manufacturer side. When I'm doing a design, if I know that something's going to be obsolete within 5 or 6 years, I want to be able to take that piece out of the equation and put another piece in so I don't have to replace the entire system. If I can replace 1 or 2 pieces and make modular designs, I'm going to try and do that. If I can design systems with parts that use less electricity, not only is that going to save on wasting electricity, it's going to save on heat because there is BTUs for every watt that is used. I want to be able to design gear that I could take out parts and put parts back in. And this is the whole thing with e-waste nowadays. I mean, if you look at things like cell phones, iPads, all these things, when they are done, they're done. And it's very hard to get your iPad fixed. We don't fix them anymore. We throw them away. So looking at a holistic system, I want to be able to replace parts. And if I can get a projector that, hey, instead of replacing the entire projector, I can replace the lens, I can replace the lamps, I can replace the laser, the LED. These are the things that I try and put into my systems to be more green. I also look at manufacturers that ship a certain way. I would much rather have the smashed up corrugated cardboard packaging than I would styrofoam.
Oh yeah.
Or for shipping equipment, you know, everybody loves those little foam peanuts, right? No, nobody loves those foam peanuts. However, those foam peanuts, I don't know if you know this, they actually make a brand of peanut that's edible.
Do what?
They're made out of cellulose and it tastes like a cracker. And you can get these foam peanuts and give them to your chickens. Literally, these things are biodegradable. They're edible. And somebody was asking me about it one time. And I said, yeah, this packing material is edible. And they're like, yeah, yes. And I grabbed one and I just ate it. And I said, yeah, it tastes like a cracker. And they grabbed it and they're like, you're right, it does. So it's not styrofoam. It's not a synthetic material. It's made out of cellulose. So there's a bunch of little things. Power cords, that little plastic end on the power cord when they ship, why? We don't need that plastic end on the power cord. So yes, with designs, we could be more efficient. Then going back to the manufacturer and saying, how can we make your gear more efficient? Modular pieces, modular microphones that are embedded in things. You could open it up, take it out, put a new microphone in. Modular processors, open it up, take it up, put a new in. Card cage things that still function and can do the things we need, but when that thing needs to be updated, instead of replacing the entire chassis, we can replace a card. And these are the ways I look at cutting down on e-waste and cutting down on what kind of PCB boards that are going to end up in the trash in some third world country that they're going to pollute the earth with.
I'm going to ask this to either of you. Kelly said something about referencing the fact that there's no laws currently mandating or regulating how e-waste is handled and how those e-waste companies operate, quite frankly. Something that the EU did not too long ago, and that was they are mandating the ability to remove your batteries in cell phones. For those of you who are roughly under 30, that used to be a thing. Okay. For those of us over that, we remember this. So that's how we rebooted the stupid system. Is it something where the government, regardless of which government we're talking about, and right now it feels like the EU is more likely to do this than the US, but to Chuck's point about making modularity, is it something where we want to rely on a government body to mandate this, or is it something that we as an industry should spearhead?
Both.
Both is a fine answer.
I feel like yes, our industry should spearhead it, but I think it's going to be difficult to do that. I think there's just, and the government too, there's a lot of politics involved, right? So.
Couple.
And our entire industry is, like I said before, is like a lot of the manufacturers, it's like based on obsolescence, right? Like want to rip out and replace, we can get new products in there. But I think there's going to I personally think that there's going to have to be a mandate to actually make it a thing that people adopt. But that's my opinion.
I think we could do it without federal regulation, but I think there's going to have to be some incentive for manufacturers to do that. I think for anyone to do that. I think there's going to have to be something that says, if you do this, you will get something in return. Because if not, we start looking at the cost of doing the things that are needed. And, at the federal level, the main law for a lot of these things are the RCRA, the Research, Conservation, and Recovery Act. They do kind of tell us, you have to treat things with lead and mercury and cadmium and chromium a certain way. You have to do some things with like CRTs, some of the TVs. You can't just throw them in the trash. You have to dispose of them. Certain light sources, if you're throwing them in the trash, fluorescent bulbs nowadays, I think, have to be recycled. And there's regulate.
Do it though?
Well, they don't, because there's nothing. It takes time. It takes time for me to go and recycle this thing, or I could just bust it up and throw it in the trash. Same thing with batteries. 12-volt batteries that are in the UPSs. Those things go bad after 2 or 3 years, and they're lead acid, and people should be taking those to the battery recycling place instead of throwing them in the river. But there's no incentive for people to just not throw that battery in the trash. So you could do a lot of things with federal regulation, but the federal government can't be everywhere. Right. Unless it benefits me to do that, unless I'm, if I am on the fence either way, unless it benefits me, I'm just whatever. So if there's some benefit, now I know some of the manufacturers with cell phones say, you turn your old cell phone in, we'll give you money off the old your new cell phone.
Yeah,
bingo. That's a great way to do that. So now, how do we do that with old boards? Old circuit boards that have lead solder, old TVs, CRTs are getting pretty few and far between. We don't have to really worry about them. But there are things, there are fluorescent bulbs, and there are other hazardous materials, especially cadmium and chromium a lot nowadays, that are in gear. How do we get that gear to the right place? What kind of incentives can we give? So I think this is what we really need to look at, is what kind of incentives can we give to the general population, be it, tax breaks. And with taxes getting to be huge everywhere, they're taxing us on dog walking. Like, can I get a tax break on my state taxes, on my federal taxes, on my business taxes for these recycling programs if I've proved I've recycled so many tons this year, so many pounds this year?
Yeah. I like that. That makes sense to me. And it's a positive reinforcement that gets people excited about it, right?
Yeah, it's the difference between a carrot and a stick, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say we could beat them with a stick, and it's harder to do that than it is to say, here's a lollipop.
Well, it is because you can't catch them while they're doing it, right? I mean, fluorescent bulbs right there are I would argue, is one of the most notorious ones. So, All right, real quickly, we'll cover one more real quick, guys. There's a transport system in London. They announced a trial of the Auracast technology on its buses. Really quickly, Auracast leverages Bluetooth technology. It's very, very cool. If you haven't seen it, if you're going to Infocom, there's a number of companies that are doing it. It allows them to broadcast directly to passengers with compatible headphones and hearing aids with no pairing required. And that's the important part, even though it leverages Bluetooth. You can do one transmitter to multiple receivers. Now, the reason I want to bring this up, though, is the technology is already deployed at the Sydney Opera House, the Frankfurt Airport, Oxford University, National Theatre in London, and the TfL. The trial results from the London system should be out later this summer. U.S. organizations, of course, we've got ADA here in the States, but nearly every country has a version. ADA stands for the American with Disabilities Act. That requires any place where people assemble to have amplified audio that provides assisted listening systems. Now, that can be, depending on your local municipality, that can be a theater, that could be a conference room, depending on how big the conference room is. So that's where I want to go with this. Chuck, when you're talking, look, obviously, most of your designs and most of the people you talk to here in the States, when you were designing systems or even now, advising people on designing them, I guess the best way to ask this is how do they know that they're putting something in place that meets those requirements? Like, what is the best avenue to make sure that they're in compliance?
So one of the best avenues for compliance, if you go directly to the ADA website, you can search for all of those regulations and those requirements. And if you have a house that's knowledgeable about 503 compliance, if they're a house that, maybe they specialize in loop systems and they're moving forward because loop systems aren't secure, they can advise you on that. A lot of design engineers that I know personally know right where to get these. And it's the ADA. I have a copy of the ADA. I actually keep it for mounting certain TVs and things when people say, hey, how high does our display have to be? Why? So I can just pull out that ADA number and pop it right on. And there's different requirements for civilian, different requirements for the Fed. Federal government has a certain mandate, whereas it might not be in every office and conference room in civilian enterprise. There's a new thing that popped up too. I know this happened in a different country, let's just say, where they had that country's requirement for disabled association, where they had a loop system in a courtroom. And the lawyer from the opposing side was outside of the courtroom, and that lawyer had a hearing aid with a T-coil, and he was just eating his lunch sitting on the bench, and all of a sudden he could hear the other side's thing. And being an ethical lawyer, he went over, knocked on the door and said, hey, I can hear everything you're saying out there. So now loop systems that they were using a lot before are not secure. That EM goes through the wall.
Holy cow, because loops have been around for years. That they're in a whole lot of places.
Yes, but now with Auracast, and I know this because Aurora has an Auracast device that plugs into the front of our AV over IP, you can encrypt that. You can make an encrypted.
Okay.
We can choose to encrypt that, and it puts a little number up on your display. And if you're in the room, you can see the display. You can enter that number into your phone and ask for a password. Just a 4-digit password. And if you don't have that little passcode, you can't get that Auracast. Auracast is getting to be very large because of the lack of peripheral devices needed. I don't need to put on a headset that's given to me by a docent or by an escort or something. The facility doesn't have to house these headsets. It's on your phone and it goes to your headphones. And it's extremely crystal clear. I was demonstrating Auracast 2 days ago, and it is just a beautiful technology. It is very stable. Bluetooth, I believe, 5.2 and up. Bluetooth, and with Bluetooth LE headphones and hearing aids, 100% crystal clear. Another thing with an ADA regulation is you can't identify people's handicap. So actually giving someone a special little earpiece, even though we're trying to help them out with that hearing assist, we're identifying their handicap. You're singling people out. So if they already have that hearing aid, we're not identifying them. They pick up their phone, they chime in, they could use AirPods or whatever their hearing device of choice is, and it just sounds like they're listening to music or, whatever it's their device. And so you have this beautiful broadcast, and you can have several different broadcasts in the room at the same time. So you can have interpretation systems in different languages doing the same thing at the same time that won't interfere with each other. So imagine having 2 or 3 loop systems in a room and having to tune into one. Yeah, that would be awful and almost impossible. But you can have several different Auracasts in the room.
So do you just connect to different?
So when you open up your phone, on my Bluetooth headphones, so I on my Android, I'd go to my Bluetooth headphone. On that Bluetooth headphone, it would say, listen to Auracast broadcast. And I click on it, and whatever's broadcasting Auracast is down there, and you just click on the broadcast, the channel that you want to listen to. So say if we're doing an install with AV over IP used as a transport, we put a different Auracast dongle on each receiver, and I'm on my Peloton or bicycle, and there's 5 different TVs up, and I want to listen to that news station, and it says Auracast broadcast CNN, and I just go to it and boop, and that's what I listen to.
I think it's neat that they're using this technology with things you're already using, right? Like, to me, it's like there's no adoption. If you're already using headphones, or you're using a hearing aid, or you're using, whatever it might be. I mean, I think that's pretty cool.
So the one big downfall right now, and we are really, really trying to push the other manufacturers to do this. If you noticed, I said something specific on my Android. Auracast is on Androids. Apple has not adopted Auracast yet.
Oh, really?
And you can get one headphone that is kind of pricey, that through their app, you can receive the Auracast broadcast. But Apple iPhones have not adopted Auracast, and we are pushing, the manufacturer side are pushing and pushing and pushing, but it's Apple. They'll do it when they want. And I'm an Apple guy. I've got Apple, I've got Macs, I've got Apple TVs, I've got iPhones all over the place. And I had to buy my first Android ever. I've had Apple iPhone since it came out. And I had to buy my first Android ever so I could demonstrate Auracast.
Wow.
Hearing aids connect to an app, and you can get it on Apple. So it is possible to receive the stream, the broadcast with the app, but Apple have not done it natively like Android has yet. So I think that's one of the big rubs in the US. And I talk to when I talk to international people and our international counterparts, many more people internationally use Androids, it seems. And because Android is not a piece of equipment, it's an operating system like Windows, whereas iPhone is a piece of equipment like a Mac. And the iOS is the same on every Mac, and but Android is the Windows. So it's more universally adopted in Europe and UK and Asia. So they get Auracast over there. Great. We're still working on it, but it is a beautiful platform. It really is.
Something else you mentioned there, Chuck, that and somebody may have already thought of this, because I am not a designer, nor do I try to play one. The fact that you can have several Auracast streams also lends itself to healthcare facilities where you're working out, right? You're on the elliptical or on the treadmill, and instead of connecting to a device, you can just say, oh, like you said, I want CNN, I want whatever. But also for multi-language. Right? Mm-hmm. In the exact same room with the exact same system, I want English, I want Spanish, I want German, that stream. That is really cool.
Yeah. And there are facilities that are doing this already. There's manufacturers that make huge Auracast systems, the kind that they're using in the UK, and in UK has a lot. And so I can go to a theater and see a play that's being broadcast in English, being broadcast in Spanish, being broadcast in Arabic. And with AI language models now, we put English into AI and tell it what language I want it to put out, and it puts out that language, and I put that on a channel, and then someone who speaks Hindi can listen to that play that they're speaking English up on the stage, but I'm hearing it in Hindi through my Auracast broadcast. So it's very, very friendly for multi-language broadcasts. Extremely
really cool.
friendly.
So beyond the public transport and stuff, what's the adoption like?
It's usually hearing impaired. It's if you look up Auracast, it is in a lot of hearing aids now, and a lot of apps,
Okay.
And a lot of manufacturers that make hearing aids and headphones have it already. It's just, it really hasn't taken off in the U.S. because of the Apple thing. There's a lot of forums on it since Aurora makes its own Auracast device for our AV over IP, just a little dongle that you can add on. So I do a lot of research on this, like, hey, where else can we use this? How can I teach people about this when we want to dig into the platform? And it's plain and simple. It's Bluetooth with some encryption on it, so it picks up that single Bluetooth channel. Bluetooth's usually 1-to-1. This is one as a broadcast to many. So you tune into the broadcast. And your headphones have to be compatible. They have to be 5.2, I believe, LE, Bluetooth 5.2 LE and above. Your phone has to be able to pick it up. And there has to be a broadcast source. But it's super easy to set up. It's super easy to listen to. The sound is crystal clear, just like Bluetooth headphones. Just come on, Apple. Come on, Apple. You're letting me down.
What's wrong with them? And I'm an Apple guy too. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Kelly Perkins, thank you, ma'am.
Thanks so much, you guys. It was good catching up.
How do people connect with you or SCT, and where do they find you at Infocom?
Kelly P. Perkins on LinkedIn or soundcontrol.net. And I will be at Infocom in Las Vegas at booth C5125 with SCT Sound Control Technologies.
All right, very good. Mr. Espinoza, good to see you as always, sir. How do people connect with you or Aurora Multimedia, and where do we find you at Infocom?
To connect with me, you just go to the post office, and I'm on a poster on the side. No,
yes, he is.
They can find me on the Twitters at Mad Sound Guy, or X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, on Facebook at Mad Sound Guy II, or at Aurora Chuck at AuroraMM.com. Chuck at AuroraMM.com. And you can find me at the Aurora booth in the bright green chroma key suit at booth C7529 at Infocom 26, IC 26. I have more suits this year. I have more. Oh, and they're flashier.
Like in different colors?
And different greens?
It's different greens. It's going to be all green, chroma key green, hunter green, but it's all some type of Aurora green. But you will be able to see me from across the convention center. So come check us out. If you come to Infocom C7529, come take a selfie with me, and I will give you my heartfelt thanks and a pat on the back.
That's about fair, yeah, because I did the selfie thing with him at ISE, and that's what I got, was a very nice pat on the back. It was very cool. And I got to troll Jeremy Caldera. This is never a bad thing. So that is accurate. All right. Thank you both so much. For me, for Tom Albright, don't follow me anywhere, but go by the website, AVNation.tv. It's AVNation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others. Mitchell is already tirelessly working on our Infocom coverage, so you can check that out as well, because we will also be at Infocom, although we don't have a booth, so we'll be running around from the 17th to the 19th of June. So we go by the website, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.
Hello, this is Steve Greenblatt, host of AVNation's A State of Control podcast. Each month, Rich Fregosa and I explore trending topics related to control, programming, and automation in the audiovisual industry. We speak with a variety of AV professionals who share their perspectives, knowledge, and experiences. Please join us for this monthly conversation. Check out A State of Control on avnation.tv or wherever you get your podcasts.